Hey guys, hope you're well. One of the most useful concepts that I've learned in my life, and I've used it, it really came into use with some therapy I was doing early last year, and I was challenging a perception I've had for a while that's harmed me a lot. And I've learned about this concept a long time ago, but didn't really use it fully and realize how useful it was until I had this experience. And it's something that I believe can really benefit the world. And I'm not the only person who's saying this kind of thing or even talking about this particular concept. This concept is presented in other forms, and I really think is useful that there are loads of people talking about this concept and really bringing it to primacy, because I think it underlies a lot of problems in the world and probably stops us from perhaps going forward in humanity with a life of abundance. Like I've spoken about this in other videos, and I continue to talk about it. One of the things I really want is for humanity, for us to have an abundance of goods and services where everyone's basic sustenance needs are met for sustenance in terms of food, shelter, energy, and also medical advancement to come, so that we can have regenerative medicine. So anything that's wrong with us, we can have it tailored specifically to our own unique genetics and have our bodies enhanced. That's what I really want to happen. And not just that, of course, not just the physical level, but also socially. I would like us to treat each other better, especially parenting, like there should be better parenting in the world, and better communities, etc. A utopian dream, of course, right? Why not aim for it? Why not try to bring heaven on earth, right? So one of the things I think hold us back is this, is not adopting this particular concept. And the concept is, essentially, this is the underlying concept. The concept is that we perceive through filters and biases, no matter who we are. And you can think of this from a secular perspective, and you can think of it from an esoteric or supernatural metaphysical perspective. From the secular perspective, we're human beings. So by virtue of being a human being, we have a brain that can process so much emotion. We have senses that have certain ranges, and because of that, we can only we have certain filters, we have certain biases based on the processes of our brain, based on the limitations of our senses. We'll if we had the hearing of hawks, we would take in other information that would factor in the hearing of hawks. Yeah, hearing of hawks and the sight of hawks. Well, you know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about. We had the hearing, the senses of a lot of animals who have, or the sonic. The sonic radar of bats and things like this. We were taking other factors into our environment. We were taking other information into our decision making, into how we live our life, into just how we're comfortable. There will be certain environments that will be uncomfortable to us if the range of our senses was different, right? So we take these factors in when we're deciding things and making decisions. These unconsciously or consciously influence us. That's just the genetic level. That's the universal genetic level. On a more specific genetic level, there's some indication where they've done it with mice. They've seen that perhaps siblings can inherit fears or inherit certain predispositions towards certain illnesses and things like this, as most people know. So that can influence our perspective. You know, certain fears we can adopt, certain proclivities or certain inclinations towards certain mindsets or sentiments or moods. We can inherit that. So that's another level. There's also a cultural level. Depending on the culture we grow up in, there are certain values, there's certain assumptions and certain presuppositions that almost unconsciously can be instilled in us. And I'll probably go into that later. So on a cultural level that can happen. And there's subcultures, because there's cultures within cultures, right? So there's subcultures. Not only that, our biochemistry can influence us. So the foods we take in, or the supplements, or just in general, depending if we get regular exercise or not, these things affect our perception. These things can affect our mood, which affect our perception. And depending on our habitual biochemistry, that will affect our general perspective on things. How many times in life you've been run down or tired, and you just can't shake this desire, that you just thought that this person's against you, or you can't handle something, or you can't do something. Then when you're in a better state, you're just like when you recover from an illness, or you start exercising more, or start eating better, it's like it just goes, you're just like, what was I thinking? and it's because of biochemistry. Or you can take something, you can take a drug, or something that can actually readdress perhaps like chemical imbalances in you, and it will change your perspective on things. So those are just some of the ideas. Oh, and this is on that's a secular perspective, right? And also we have biases, etc. So on the esoteric side, on the spiritual metaphysical side, our energy, how our energy body is, so how our chi is running, if you believe in chi, our chakras, our chakra system, and the state of our chakras, these things can affect us. Not only that, the energy in our environment, the energy of the environment. If you believe in like Feng Shui or Bagua, by Bagua I don't mean the martial art, I mean the energy system understanding of like wealth chi, helpful people chi, work chi, there's chi for other things too, like love, there's chi for security, there's chi for these kind of things. So depending where you are in the environment, there's certain energies that will affect certain energies that come into you or in the environment. So these things can affect your perspective. So that's the secular perspective and the esoteric perspective. So basically what I'm saying is that these filters and these biases influence our perception. We don't perceive reality directly. There's, as I said, there's many different ways of framing this concept. In formal philosophy, it's called representative realism. The idea that there's on like representing it on like a symbolic level. There's reality, there's us, and in the middle is a representation. What we do is we see reality, then we interpret reality. We don't perceive it directly. How many times, I'm sure everybody's had this, you thought something was one way, then you got more information or feedback, and you're like, it's not that way, it can't be that way. So I think Philip K. Dick said, reality is what continues to exist even if you don't believe it, or something like that, or if you shut your eyes. I've just ruined that phrase, but it's something like that. And Robert Anton Wilson said, reality is what you can get away with. If you can't get away with it, it ain't real. It's like people who believe they can, apparently there's stories of people who on LSD who believe they can jump off buildings and fly and then fall to their death. Obviously reality is not that human beings can jump off buildings and fly. So so that's just an extreme example of a feedback system telling you no, you're wrong. So we basically, what I'm saying is that we create models of reality. It can be symbolic, linguistic. It's a mixture of symbolic, linguistic, can also be like somatic, based on impressions, right? So it's we create models of reality, and we perceive reality through models. And this is true for even if you just think in a mundane or secular, such as sensory perception, just the five senses, or you can say six, proprioception. Some people say that's touch, but anyway, say the five senses. Okay, we still have biases, right? Because there's different ranges, and people see different things, can be colorblind, etc. Which colorblind basically is just the minority see things a certain way, whereas the majority see things a certain way. Anyway, so that's that. On esoteric level, even extrasensory perception, there are people who purport to be able to see energy, or clairvoyant and clairsentient, and they will disagree on conclusions. They'll disagree on the interpretations of things. So whether it's sensory perception or extrasensory perception, we all perceive through filters and biases. If you think about it, from a secular perspective, we've already gone into that. On the esoteric level, on the spiritual perspective, in order for us to have a sense of individuality, in order for us to have a sense of I, we need to have parameters, right? Parameters. We need to have parameters. We need to have limitations, and through these filters. Otherwise, if these filters would dissipate, we'd have no sense of separation. Completely no sense. Not what the non-dualists say. There's no sense of separation. Even when they're talking, they have a sense of identity and boundaries and things they'll let people do to them or won't do to them. I mean, a genuine, just no boundary. They'd probably just be, if they really had that, they'd just be like mutes or something. Just they'd lay down and die. That's my perspective. So basically, what I'm saying is that so we have filters and biases in our we perceive through filters and biases. So the usefulness of this concept is that however you perceive, your conclusions are always provisional. So there's always room for new information. There's always room for feedback that can change your perspective. And it doesn't mean it's easy. Your ego, I take Paul McKenna's perspective on ego, which is to look good and be right. Your ego's there, and your ego doesn't like to admit you're wrong. It's not easy for me. What I mean is, I can admit I'm wrong just because I've made huge mistakes in my life. Like I've had belief systems that I've fully invested in that turned out to be complete crap, and I've organized my life around those belief systems and had to completely change my life. So I'm willing to say I'm wrong. I'm willing to. But even though I am somebody, I would generally, I think, humbly or objectively say that I'm probably far more willing than a lot of people, if I compare myself to other people, to admit they're wrong. It's still not pleasant experience to be like, damn, I was wrong. It's not, well, sometimes I don't care, but sometimes it's like, ooh, that kind of hurts my ego. You know what I mean? So you can, but the good thing about having this concept is just admitting to yourself, you know what, I might not be right. And it doesn't mean, it's not an argument for relativism. It's not an argument that all models of reality are equally plausible, that you can't say that the creationist model, the Christian creationist model of reality is equally plausible to the theory of evolution. I don't believe they are. I think the evidence is pretty clear, because one explains and predicts things and the other one doesn't. So so that's one example in terms of how species have developed. Regarding how species have developed, if you put those two models side by side and compare them, the one is far more credible than the other. So it's not if you use this concept and take this concept, and the concept is called reality tunnels. Finally got around to saying it. A reality tunnel is the concept, that we perceive reality metaphorically, of course, through tunnels. That through filters and biases. If you take this concept, it doesn't mean you have to believe that all models of reality are equally plausible. Some models of reality seem to explain and predict things better than others. Some models of reality are more useful when it comes to trying to reach a goal than others. So it doesn't mean that all models are equally plausible in terms of being able to explain and predict or being able to reach a goal. So it's not an argument for relativism, but it is an argument to say that on a personal level, like say if you need therapy or you need some help with a particular problem, what can happen is a lot of people can get very fixed in their views. Especially when I went through depression, there was a time when I was like, no, this is the truth. You know what I mean? Everybody who's happy is just lying to themselves and blah, blah, blah. I see the truth kind of thing. That's kind of the part of the monologue going through my head. And it's damaging, and it's not true because you don't know the truth either. So anybody out there is down and depressed, like, I see the truth, everybody's just lying to themselves. You've got a tunnel, you've got a filter, you've got a bias, and it can be changed. You can change it to a different reality tunnel that makes you feel happier. And it doesn't necessarily mean just for your thoughts. As I've said, your reality tunnel might be genetic. It might be you have to change your biochemistry. You might have to change where you live. You might have to do all kinds of things in order to change your reality tunnel. So it's not necessarily you just think a certain way you change. Anyway, so basically what I'm saying is that whatever your view of reality is, whether that's to do with your values, whether that's to do with your beliefs, whether that's your mood, whatever, it can be changed and it can be wrong. So it can be altered and it can be wrong. So that on a deeper level, or not a deeper level, on a wider level, there are cultural reality tunnels, I believe, right? There's certain cultures, nations and subcultures can have reality tunnels. So the subject of the second video is going to be about cultural reality tunnels, normally specifically based around the West and the East. And I think it's really pertinent now for people to examine the reality tunnels of the West and the East. Like Martin Jacobs, I think that's how you pronounce his name, he talks about how China, the rise of China and why China will rule. And one of the things I think he does absolutely brilliantly is contrasting the Western cultural paradigm and the Eastern cultural paradigm. So in the second video I'm going to go into that, and I hope this was a good introduction to the subject of reality tunnels, what they are and why it's important. It's important for two reasons. One, in order to help you in life, to not only to perhaps get rid of to get rid of beliefs that are destructive or not useful, but also for empathy, for you to realize, okay, other people have a different perspective and they really strongly believe it just as much as I do. And they might not, what we can do sometimes is dismiss other people as stupid, or it's obviously true, why do you believe that? Or I can't understand why you don't believe something. And The reason why they believe it is because they have things, conscious and unconscious, influencing them to reach a particular conclusion. You might be able to uncover a model of why they reach a certain conclusion, and you might not. There might be certain things that you don't. Like when I debate people online, because I debated a lot since I was 13, and one of the things I learned is that one, ego gets involved, and that is for me and as well as for the other person. We want to look good and we want to be right, so most people are not going to admit they were wrong or made a mistake in the middle of a heated debate. It just is very rare to happen. And two is the notion that we know exactly why somebody has reached their conclusion. That it's garbage. In my opinion, in my experience, it's garbage. We don't know every facet of why somebody reaches a conclusion. So just because somebody is not convinced in the moment or during a debate that why your position is better than theirs, right, or more accurate than theirs, or more useful than theirs, it doesn't mean they're stupid or being dishonest. There might be factors leading them to reach that conclusion that you haven't touched. Or there might be, and vice versa, right? Okay, so that's another useful thing. It can help with diplomacy. It can help with empathy. It can help with self. So anyway, this video ran on. Videos always run on longer than I want them to. Anyway, guys, that's an introduction to reality tunnels from my perspective. There are other great videos on YouTube which talk about reality tunnels. I think it's great to watch all these videos because we all give little nuggets that can complement each other. Anyway, guys, take care.